Today we are going to discuss thyroid gland. We will discuss the anatomy part, not the physiology. So we will not discuss physiology functions or microscopic structures. So starting with introduction, thyroid gland is the largest endocrine gland of the body. It secretes three hormones, T3, T4, calcitonin. Some important functions of these hormones are like it regulates the basic BMR of the body, it stimulates growth of the body, and play an important role in calcium metabolism. The main hormone that involves in calcium metabolism are calcitonin and parathyroid hormone. Some specific features of thyroid are it's the only endocrine gland which is located superficially, like you can examine it physically by touching it. It's the only endocrine gland that depends on external environment like iodine. It needs iodine for secreting the hormones. Only gland that stores its hormone, and it's very rich in blood supply. So talking about location, you can see here the vertebral levels are C5, C6, C7 and T1. Parts and features, it is a sept consisting of two lobes, right and left, and horizontal isthmus that connects both lobes. So each lobe is placed obliquely, like you can see here, both are placed obliquely, and the baseline, the below part, is 5th to 6th tracheal ring. The isthmus extends across the midline between 2nd, 3rd and 4th tracheal ring. Basics like weight 25 gram. Each lobe is approx 5 cm long, 3 cm wide, and the thickness is 2 cm. The isthmus is 1.2 cm long and 1.25 cm wide. So capsule of thyroid gland, the two capsules, inner true capsule and outer false capsule. The true capsule is made from fibrous stroma of the gland, and false capsule by splitting pretracheal fascia. The fascia that covers the tracheal also splits and covers externally the thyroid gland. You can see some features of false capsule. So coming to relations, each lobe is pyramidal in shape. There is pyramidal, so there is apex and there is base. Two borders, anterior and posterior. Three surface, lateral, medial and posterolateral. So you have to remember it's apex and base, two borders, three surfaces. And I'm talking about the lobe, not the isthmus. The isthmus has two borders and two surfaces. So apex directed upwards and slightly laterally, sandwiched between inferior constrictor. Constrictors are muscles. There are three constrictors. So the apex is sandwiched between inferior constrictor and sternothyroid. Like you can see here, the inferior constrictor and the sternothyroid, and there is the apex, which is sandwiched between the two muscles. The base is extended up to 5th to 6th tracheal ring. We already talked about that here. 5th to 6th tracheal ring, and it's related to inferior thyroid artery and recurrent laryngeal nerve that passes by the base of the thyroid. Talking about surfaces, lateral surfaces, medial surface and posterolateral surface. So talking about lateral surface, it's convex, lateral. You can see here the lateral surface, it's convex and covered by three straps of muscles: sternothyroid, sternohyoid and superior belly of omohyoid. And there is anterior border of sternocleidomastoid overlapping its inferiorly. Talking about medial surfaces, There are two tubes, two muscles, and two cartilages. Two tubes, obviously trachea and esophagus, right? Two muscles, the inferior constrictor, and there is a muscle cryothyroid, and there is a cartilage associated with it, the thyroid cartilage, and there is thyroid cartilage that makes the tracheal rings. Talking about posterolateral surface, the carotid sheath and its content are there. The common carotid, jugular, internal jugular, and vagus nerve. There are two borders, anterior and posterior border. The posterior border is somewhat thick and anterior border is somewhat thin. So anterior border thin, related to anterior branch of superior thyroid artery. The posterior border is thick and rounded. And you can remember the relation. We can't discuss and show all the relations here, but you can remember the relations. So there is a question, and describe the gross feature of thyroid gland. So we have already discussed. The lobes have apex, base, 3 surface, 2 borders. The isthmus has 2 surface, 2 borders. The arterial supply, there are 4 arterial supply, basically 3 arterial supply. The thyroid EMA artery are present in only 30% cases. So there are 4 arterial supplies. Superior thyroid artery is the branch of, here you can see, it's the branch of external carotid artery that supplies upper 1/3 of lobe and half of isthmus, the upper half of isthmus. The inferior thyroid artery, here you can see inferior thyroid artery, it's the branch of subclavian artery that supplies lower 2/3 of the lobe and the lower half of isthmus. The thyroidea EMA artery in the 30% cases is the direct branch of arch of aorta. The 4th one is accessory thyroid arteries. It's from tracheal and esophageal arteries. Talking about venous drainage, there are 4 venous drainage also. Superior thyroid vein that drains into internal jugular. Middle thyroid vein, the names describe itself. The superior thyroid vein drains the superior thyroid part of thyroid gland and drains into internal jugular. Middle thyroid vein drains into the external jugular. Inferior thyroid vein drains into left brachiocephalic vein. And thyroid vein of Koch, sometimes it's present, sometimes it's absent. So it drains also into internal jugular vein. Here you can see the picture talking about lymphatics. It's divided into 2 groups, the upper and the lower. Upper group drain into prelaryngeal and upper deep cervical nodes. Here the green ones are the deep cervical. You can see the prelaryngeal here. The lower group drains into pretracheal and paratracheal, lower deep cervical lymph nodes, and recurrent laryngeal nerves, the lymph nodes along recurrent laryngeal nerves. There are also deep cervical, the lower part of the isthmus drains into brachiocephalic nodes. Talking about nerve supply, the parasympathetic and sympathetic. The parasympathetic is vagus and recurrent laryngeal nerves, and sympathetic originates from cervical sympathetic ganglia, right? So these are some clinical portion. You can read from the notes available for free. That's all for now. See you in the next video.